So coming up this week, show 766, a slight change from our normal show. So we would normally be talking about surface dew and other things like that, but we're going to post that to next week because we've got some special guests, haven't we, Garry?
Oh, we've got very special guests talking about the Power Platform, and yes, so we're joined by some very interesting people.
Right, let's get straight to it. Right, so Garry, do you want to do the intro?
Yeah, I think we can. So we are joined on the show by a group of people who may know a little bit about a project called Power Platform. And I'll start off with Donna. Do you want to introduce yourself and pass yourself around the team?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Garry and Ian, for having us on your podcast. I am Dona Sarkar. I lead advocacy for the Power Platform at Microsoft. And Power Platform, for those of you who don't know, is a platform and a set of tools that is ideal for people who may be coders or they may not be coders, but they want to quickly make and build things to solve their problems. So this can be apps, this can be websites, this can be chatbots, this can be automation, it can be visualization dashboards. And the whole purpose of the Power Platform is that you don't need to be a dev, but even if you are a dev, it's sometimes cool to just have building blocks so you can solve your problem without having to think about what cool Visual Studio tricks you're going to do today. So I am joined today by two amazing human beings. First up, Joe Camp.
Thank you, Donna. So hey, Garry and Ian, great to be on your show. Been watching it for a little while. I've known you guys for a number of years through a role I was previously part of, and it was great to get to know you. So a little bit about me. I joined Donna's team early July. Prior to that, I was on the Windows Insider program and ran the Windows Insider MVP program, which is how I met Garry and Ian. And then prior to that, I was part of the larger Microsoft MVP program. I was on in that team for 4, 5, 6 years. Really great program. But prior to that, and this kind of ties into my current role on Donna's team, is I was in financial services. I was on a capital markets desk for a bank, did risk management for them. And then in 2007, 2008, in the U.S., there was financial issues with the economy, and unfortunately, the institution that I worked for was negatively impacted. So from there, I transitioned to Microsoft in a very different role, working with community and working in tech that honestly, my tech skills were probably just deep into Excel and just using Excel to try to figure out how I can maximize profits on trades. Fast forward to now, on Donna's team with Power Apps, and my role is focused on career switchers. So showing people like myself who really don't have a coding background or a really deep technical background at all, how easy, and I say easy because honestly, it relatively is, to transition into a role where you can build apps through the Power App tooling system. And so with the Power Apps tooling, it's pretty easy to take your understanding of a process in your role and automate that process. And as an example, one of the things that I did recently was build an inventory tracking app, which would have been so helpful in the role that I had when I was part of the Windows Insider team. I managed the swag that we would give out at conferences, and gosh, it was so,
and
yeah.
The little things I've got on my shelf up there as well, yeah.
I think you have some stuff, but it was really laborious. I would have to go into the inventory room and just manually kind of figure out what we have, what we don't have. And folks would take stuff without telling me. And this app that I built, it's pretty easy. Share it with everybody on the team, and then as people pull swag out, there's a couple of clicks, and we now have an easy way to manage what we have in inventory. So it's kind of a long story, but that's where I am. And so now I'm going to introduce my colleague, Homo from South Africa.
Hi. My name is Homo for I'm short, and I'm on Donna's team. I lead advocacy for students for the Power platform. And basically, my story is it's a simple one. My love for programming began when I was in high school not too long ago, um, where I started to learn about coding and the tech space. And at the time, and I didn't know it until recently, but I was very privileged to be in a space where I was able to learn about tech. And then my interest grew in that space well into my college years, where I began to see a trend in students struggling to grasp some of the programming concepts, because most of these students where I come from in South Africa didn't have access to computer labs, to learning about tech and such. So I decided to bridge this gap by creating these tutorials called Homo's guides. And these guides would cover syllabus specific content, pretty much how students would want to learn about tech. And these guides became very popular throughout my campus, and I started to make these guides like 2 or 3 per month. And these covered various topics from cloud to .NET, and it was really cool, and it was really cool for students to be able to learn from their peers. And this unknowingly ignited a passion within me to help other students upskill using what I had already learned. So then through this guide making, I joined the Microsoft Student Partner Program, which is now called the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador Program, which is basically a group of on-campus leaders from across the world interested in learning about Microsoft Tech and teaching Microsoft Tech. So through the program, I progressed my skills, and then I graduated from creating written tutorials to hosting them online or hosting them in person, but online now because of what we are going through in the world. So then I did that, and I started to do these sessions on my campus and on campuses across the province and eventually across the country, which saw me traveling to other cities, meeting different people in my industry. And then I attended a conference about 2 years ago, Microsoft Ignite, and that's where I met Donna. And we spoke at length about some of the initiatives that I was doing with students back home where I was from. She was very interested in the work that I was doing and the approach that I was doing it as well. And that's when we started to speak about an initiative where we wanted to take tech and sort of democratize it so that people from all walks of life can leverage the use of those technologies. So then we spoke about this initiative, which didn't really take off, but those principles stayed with both of us throughout this time. And when a position opened up for me, for someone to upskill students across the world using the Power platform, then Donna contacted me, and that's where I am now. So I'm really happy to be here.
Excellent. I think it's a really good time to be able to do this as well. I think the Power will come to what Power Apps are, but I think being able to the distance learning, teaching people is the thing for now, isn't it? Definitely.
It is.
For sure.
I looked at one of the things you mentioned. There was the democratization of apps, and I think that's where Power Apps really does fill a real empty space which was out there before, where people who perhaps haven't got that the skills of the developer. You may know I do a bit of development, right. But I also come across a lot of people in business who haven't got those skills, and also a lot of people who perhaps now, as Joe was saying, that the world has unfortunately changed quite a lot this year, and there's a lot of people out there who are potentially looking for new roles and new skills, and I guess that's where Power Apps fills some gaps.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to go into what Power Apps are, the Power Apps are, and where this platform started now. But from my point of view, why I found this really interesting. So my day job is in IT and an IT manager, and although I do some development, quite often I need to come up with a quick solution, and this seems to fit in with that so well. So let's start at the beginning though. So Power Apps, what is the Power Apps platform, and where did it come from?
Okay, so Power Apps platform started off as a side project called Project Sienna, I believe it was called, like 4 years ago. And the idea was, we've got Azure, which is great for devs, but what if you're not a dev? How do you quickly build things, right? How do you build a chatbot without using the bot framework? How do you build an app without it being, a SQL Azure app? How do you build a website without it being a Azure portal? How do you do visualization without having to become like a data scientist? So without being deeply specialized, how does a normal person who works at a company needs to solve a business problem, how can they do it without having to learn to code first? Because for years, like we in tech, and I'm as guilty of this as anyone, where I believe that everyone in the world should learn to code. I used to believe that. I believed it forever. I believed it for 14 years of career. And Garry, you and I have talked about this extensively.
Yep, indeed.
Yeah, I'm just like, look, I believe everyone in the world should learn to code, because I learned when I was 18 and it completely changed my life. And all of my peers from Detroit, Michigan, where I'm from in the US, which is a very low income place, all of my peers who did not learn to code do not have these extraordinary opportunities that I have. So I blame it all on tech. It's because of tech that I have these opportunities. So I believe that it sets you free. It gives you enormous economic opportunity, and it lets you have this magic wand you can use to solve problems for not just yourself, but your community. And you can use that to give back to whoever you want to give back to. So I've been on this thing of like, everyone in the world should learn to code forever. And about a year ago, not even, I was introduced to this idea of the Power Platform, where the end result is the same. The means of how you get there is different. So the way to become a coder, it's quite time consuming. It takes years and months to learn even what computer science is, to wrap your head around it, to write your first hello world, to figure out what you're going to make, write your second project, it not compile. And by the time you're building something useful, if you're very dedicated, it's been months, maybe years. And if you're someone who is like all of us, where we have a job, we have family, we have things, it may take you decades, or you may never do it. So I'd love for Joe to share the story. Actually, you know what I'm going to share for Joe? Years, maybe like 5 years ago, we were getting ready to do an event for Insider Program. And Joe, of course, he made an offhand comment like, yeah, this coding stuff looks really cool. I'd maybe learn to love to code one day. And I like pounced on that so fast. I'm like, tell me more, financial services guy, about how you want to learn to code. So interesting. A case study, right? A victim. So I assigned him homework. I'm like, go do CS50 from Harvard, and it's a free thing. Go learn it. And he tried, right? He really did his best, where he learned it and he relearned it and he relearned it. But between a full-time job and a family and, life, you're just not going to get through an entire online CS program unless that's all you're freaking doing, or, you're going to be awake at all hours. It's a very, very hard thing to do. So I thought about all of the people in the world like Joe who could really benefit from being able to build things to solve their own problems. And Power Platform, it just like turned on this light bulb above my head. Like, the thing I'm trying to do, it can be done way easier if we get rid of the coding portion and say everyone in the world can learn to build and make, rather than everyone in the world learn to code. So we started working on Power Platform. It's been around about 4 years-ish, really in mainstream for about a year. It's been called Power Platform for about a year. It is a mix of, I would say, 5 individual components. One is Power Apps. So those are the low-code apps that work on your iOS or Android device or in a web browser. And those are internal apps, so internal to your organization. So it's great for like timesheets or expenses or inventory or all of these things. Second thing is called a Power Apps Portal. You're going to see a lot about Power Apps Portal for the next year. It is a low-code website. Now, Power Apps Portal has a distinct advantage where it can be external facing for your customers or internal facing. So it can be either you're going to see many, many, many changes and improvements in Power Apps portals over the next year. So keep an eye out, the low code website. Third thing, it's my personal favorite, is Power Virtual Agent. This is a low code chatbot. This also can be external facing or internal facing. And it's a chatbot that lets you solve customer problems or solve your own virtual assistant problems, but without having to learn the bot framework. That's pretty cool. Like, you don't need to go become like a Lewis expert or a bot framework expert or an AI expert or a cognitive services expert to build your own chatbot in whatever language you want. So I found that to be just like such a cool thing. You can embed those chatbots within your Power App, into your portal, in your own website, wherever the heck you want. In your intranet, you can, there's just a link, you paste it, chatbot. Fourth thing, was that 3 things? Yeah. Fourth thing is, no, that was 5 things. Was that 5 things? All right, next thing is Power BI, which a lot of people know. It's visualization of data. So I've got-
I like this.
Yeah, it's like the sales, like the sales of stuff. If you're a dyslexic person like me, looking at a spreadsheet is terrible experience. So I'd rather much see it visualized. So Power BI lets you generate these visualizations, share them easily, pin them to stuff. It's so easy that a software engineer can make charts and graphs, which is not easy, right? You tell a coder to make charts and graphs, they're like, what? It's like asking a data scientist to write an operating system. It's just not the same thing, not the same brain, usage. And then the kind of 2 fun bonus things in Power Platform is AI Builder, which is low code AI. So you don't need to go to AI school. You don't need to become data scientists. You don't need to go, like get a PhD in calculus. It's a way that you can do object recognition, text processing, all of the like cool AI examples without having to learn AI. And then there is a low code data store currently called the Common Data Store, new name to be announced soon. But it's set up specifically for people who are not SQL experts. So that is the Power Platform in a giant, giant box. There's going to keep being new things added to it. But for all of your business problems, there probably is a tool that can help you out.
One of the things to add is is Power Automate.
That's right. I knew I'd forget one, and that's the one. Joe, tell everyone about Power Automate.
Oh dear, this is the one component that I don't really know a ton about, that I haven't really played with. But and Homo, you please correct me, because I think you know way more about this than I do. Homo is my though he's a lot younger than me, he's a lot smarter than me when it comes to this sort of stuff. So I lean on him a ton. He's a rock star in Africa for sure. So Power Automate it's honestly, in a simple sentence, it's a way to just quickly automate processes, like a flow of an email into a data store, or a flow from a Power App into an email into a Teams notification type of thing. Is that fair? Do I do a decent job of that?
That's exactly what it is. It automates if you don't have to do it.
So I can keep my job.
So I think one of the things about Power Platform that I like is things work together really well. So I'll tell you about a thing that I built just for myself recently. I used to, when we used to have events someday, I used to get a lot of business cards. And I will lose everything. There's no way. Some people are organized and then they store them somewhere. I'm going to lose that business card so fast. So what I do is I made a Power App that works on my phone. So I'll get a business card. I'll take a picture of it. I've made a Power App that uses AI Builder to scan the business card that I've taken a picture of, pull out their person's name, their email address, and store them into my Outlook contacts. So there's 3 pieces of tech being used: Power Apps to build the app, Power Automate or AI Builder to actually do the scanning of the app, and Power Automate to store it inside Outlook. So I did all of this with 0 code, with like a bunch of drag and drop stuff, and it took maybe like 6 minutes to build. And this is a useful thing for anybody, because who can keep track of where the heck their business cards are? And there's so many interesting use cases for this. Like I'm messing with something to look at receipts for my own small business on the side. I hate receipts. There's like a box of them. I have to scan each one now. Scan each one, and then it stores into an Excel. So, come tax time, they're documented versus in a shoebox. There's just so many examples. And because the parts of the Power Platform really work together as a platform, you're able to feel like, oh, I can really run my business using the set of tools as my CTO. So I tell everyone, if you don't have a CTO, get Power Platform. Power Platform can be your CTO, and you don't have to go hire a team of software engineers to do all this work for you.
I suppose he's getting the idea, or experiment with something that's an idea. It doesn't take a huge amount of investment then, because if you were starting from scratch, writing an Outlook integration with Azure and SQL, you've got to really invest in that. But with this, you can perhaps have a play around and see what you come up with.
Great for prototyping. I was thinking about the example I came up with, Donna, when watching the Powerful Dev show, and I think that's another cool example of something which is outside the box. I mean, I have a friend who has a EV charger at home, and was struggling to control it to work on the best and cheapest electricity. We have a system over here where you can, it's called Agile Power, and basically you get different charges every half hour for what power you're using, depending on how green the grid is and how much coal's being used and all that sort of stuff. And sometimes you can get very cheap power. In fact, sometimes you get paid for having power. And they wanted a way of making sure their EV charger was only being used when that power was cheap. And I did that with a Power Automate script, which looked at the API from the energy provider and the thing I wrote during the Powerful Dev thing, which actually controls their charger. So now it just flows in through the Automate, and it was really simple. It's about 2 hours work to get it set up, which is pretty amazing. It's taken me weeks on programming to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose it's where you're the process owner, and you've got the knowledge, isn't it? So it's that person that's got the knowledge of the application rather than having to have all the technical knowledge.
That's right. And in companies, this is such a common thing in companies where HR or legal or finance, somebody will have a problem. Then they have to go find some dev, translate the problem to them, and try to explain what they want built, right? And the dev will say, how many APIs do you need? And HR's like, what's an API? And dev will say, okay, so what kind of plugins do you need? HR will say, I still don't know what that word is. So they're like, you have two people trying to speak a common language, right? Versus now, a dev can say, okay, use Power Platform, right? Do you have data source? Usually everyone has their data in some source, right? They've got it in an Excel or a SharePoint or who knows. But translate that into something, some sort of a UI visualization that will work for you. And I find it very useful when people build the thing they need for their own business themselves, because then they feel that they know how to use it, they know how to adjust it. They don't have to keep going to the dev team and begging and pleading for like, can we add a button for save, right, over here. Right. So, and we all know you should keep HR, legal, finance happy in your company because it leads to you being employed and paid. So these are very good people to keep happy. So dear devs, introduce your HR, legal, finance, operations people to Power Platform, because they will stop yelling at you, and you will be this hero who's like, hey, here's all this new tools that you can go show off and look like a total badass in your industry. Because most HR, legal, finance people have no idea, right? They just don't know. So the ones who show up with tech skills randomly suddenly are a rock star, compared to the ones who are like still going about thinking about it from 20 years ago technology.
And I suppose this is where it fits into the idea you mentioned with Joe with career switches, is the fact that you've got expertise in your industry. You can apply those without having to have all the background technical. At least you can start to come up with solutions, and I suppose that's a good way of changing roles, but using your expertise that you've gathered over years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's from a career switcher's perspective, and when I say career switchers, I mean this conversation applies to people who are considering switching career, and those who are in a career that they're happy with, but it's an opportunity to increase the value of themselves with their employer. Put another couple of bullet points on their CV or resume that I can do this. And
Right.
they are, Ian, to your point, I mean, people in organizations outside of IT within the corporation know their process. I mean, know their processes that are occurring within their org. They know the process flow. They know the workflow. They know what their intended ROI is for a specific thing that needs to get done. But maybe it takes 5 days because you're collecting data here, you're doing this, you're talking to 5 different people, you have to set up some meeting, da 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 da. You can automate all of this, and as the subject matter expert on that process flow, you take a little bit of time to learn how to pull all this together through a Power Apps, and then combine that with Power Automate, and maybe you set up some sort of, I don't know, you could set up your data source as an Excel spreadsheet to be quite frank, and then when something that takes 5 days can take a day or less, and the ROI is the amount of time saved, which is, from an employer's perspective, that's the amount of time that I don't have to pay you to do this thing. You can now do something different.
That's right. So Joe, do you want to share a little bit about just Microsoft's upskilling program, like that Brad Smith announcement? That was the whole primary reason Joe works on our team, is because we want to be, there's this mission of having upskilling, and Joe's work directly ties into that. And I think just the way Joe's going about it is just fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I'll pay you for that compliment later. Ian and Gary, I don't know if you guys have seen, but was it June 30? There was a big announcement from Microsoft. It's in the Microsoft, I think the general Microsoft blog site for news, where Brad Smith came out. Brad is our president. And it talked about how Microsoft, considering what's going on in the world, as well as a number of different things, the idea is we want to upskill up to 25 million people across the globe. And as part of that, with our, I guess, acquisition, or the relationship that we have with LinkedIn, we have, and within the announcement, listed, I think, 10 different courses of study for people to go into LinkedIn for free and take these courses, these learning paths. It's from, it's the typical, if you would think, from Microsoft tech type of oriented classes, but then there are other things like for financial services type of people, or finance. There's marketing. I think there's some HR stuff in there as well. And it's the idea of providing content for people to upskill themselves and make themselves a more valuable employee or potential employee for any company. And then as part of that, we, Donna's team, very much, and to be very transparent, have a very much of an interest in upskilling people to what we're talking about. And something that I'm becoming passionate about more and more each day is Power Apps and Power Platform, the whole Power Platform tooling system, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. And one of the things that was really interesting to me and something I started doing recently, is just looking in LinkedIn, and you can go into LinkedIn and you can pull some queries for job descriptions, and just looking for job descriptions where Power Apps is in the job description. And just over the past 5 days, from Friday to this morning, within the US, there were over 200 new jobs posted, where Power Apps is in the job description someplace. That's huge. I mean, that's just, to me, that's just over 5 days. And that includes the weekend, which, if you think about it, most HR people are not going to post a lot of job descriptions on the weekend. I mean, it's coming during the week. So 200 is huge. In the UK, I checked the UK as well. The UK is, I think it's about 150 maybe 125 to 150. I think that was the number from from Friday to today. I mean, that's great opportunity for anybody and everybody. And you guys and the people that are listening to this talk, you can go do the query yourself. You just go into LinkedIn, and then in the banner up top, you click on jobs, and then you can run a query very quickly, very easy, just typing in a keyword for Power Apps and then the country, and all that information is there. So there's a big demand, and that demand is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, at least as we see it, for people who have the ability to write kind of low code, no code applications. And the moniker has been citizen dev or citizen developer. And it's somebody like me who doesn't have a CS or a computer science background or education. I mean, mine's finance. But I understand a process flow. And now you can do some things as Donna described and as Homo described. You can do some drag and drops within Power Apps, and you can build something that saves you a ton of time. And from a finance person, saving time means there's a definite return on investment, because your time is your money. And so if you're saving yourself some time, you're saving yourself some money. So I don't know if that really goes into I think that answers what you're talking about. But I mean, it's very, we definitely have an interest in people learning. This is a great opportunity. There's a ton of jobs that are coming, or that we see day over day over day, that are open for people. And we hope you take the opportunity to learn so that you can put yourself in front of somebody to maybe get a new job.
Or, up-level yourself in your existing one and really impress your team and say, I learned app dev over the weekend. People are like, I did. Check out my apps. How did you do this, Magic? So it's pretty sweet. It's pretty powerful. It's been amazing watching Joe go from, I have no idea what this is, to, I built an app, I made a video, I wrote a blog article, and now I'm presenting at my first conference telling you how to build apps, right? In a span of a month? That is amazing. It's amazing to watch. And I've seen this so many times with so many people. That's why I was like, Joe can do this. Because I really love how anyone in the world can really figure it out. If you know how to use a computer, you can learn to do this. And Gomolemo, I'd love for you to share some of the audiences you're looking at, because Gomolemo's looking at students, but not just computer science students, all kinds, and emerging markets as well.
Yeah, so it's like before I joined this team, I also had the same idea as Donna, where I had this belief where everyone in the world should and could learn how to code, right? That is what I'm going for. That was what a lot of my work in the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador Program was about. It was about going out to students and teaching them how to code, right? And without even realizing, I was shutting out a lot of other students who didn't have a CS background, or didn't go to a boot camp or whatever it may be. And I think now, with this new role that I'm in, we are sitting on the idea that when tools for problem solving involve less code, then more people can take part, right? As tech ambassadors, we go out and we share our technical knowledge with as many people as we can, without even realizing that we are shutting out a large part of the audience that deserve to be part of this movement that we are a part of, right? We are limiting our reach to a select few due to our content or whatever requiring a certain level of expertise. So now, if we have a platform that has prerequisites that allow people to create solutions that give people the power, right? Excuse the pun, to create solutions, then these methods can be shared with people across a variety of different fields and expertise. And this is why, through the work that we are doing, it's imperative that app making is democratized to accelerate the current digital revolution. Because especially at the time that we are in now, a lot of people are either doing courses where there might not be a job in the next few years, or they're just starting out in their careers as recent graduates and they can't find work, right? Or you have people that are not sure about where they fit in this new age. And then that's where platforms like the Power platform come in, where we can redefine their skill sets into other parts of the production chain, so to speak. So a lot of the work that I'm doing, that we're doing with students, especially right now, is trying to streamline some of the content that we see, because what we noticed was when you look for resources on how to learn about power, there's a lot of bits here and there, and we wanted to just streamline that content into a few verified sources so that people can go on and learn directly from those sources. Then once that part of the work is done, or is at least started, then we can work with students locally in various areas of the world where this platform might not have had a big of an impact as it has in the US and in the UK. So that's the work that we are doing, and we're doing it with students, because students, well, I feel, learn quickly, and they're more open to experiments with different technologies. And what's great about this is that now we can reach students outside of the Microsoft Bible or outside of the computer science stream. So business, law, if you're in theater, anywhere you are, then we can come and sort of tailor make these use cases to suit your needs and to suit your field, and then make that personal to you. And that's what we are trying to do. And as I was learning about the platform a few weeks ago, I just had a thought, and I actually mentioned to Joe and Donna, like, I just came out of 3 years of CS, and I was taught that app making it shouldn't be this easy. It's almost witchcraft at how easy it is, right? To have this platform that allows you to create these apps. Mm-hmm. I was like saying, but the thing is, especially in this day and age, it needs to be this easy. These are the skills that people need to be able to acquire at much less effort, so that people can just get jobs and prosper in their careers. And that's the type of work that we're doing, and that's the type of work that I want to be a part of, because then we're changing and having impacts in so many lives.
I suppose you've got really low barrier of entry for this, haven't you? You don't have to have a super powerful PC to get started, or an expensive hosting contract.
Exactly.
So it's accessible to all, really, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So what's really interesting to me about Power Platform, especially working with Joe and Gomolemo, is realizing that most people in the world are afraid to start. Right? And the reason they're afraid is because we've made it this impossible thing. Tech people are special. It's like as if we're surgeons, right? We've made it that kind of specialty where you need to go to school, you need to work for a long time, you need to gain your creds, your GitHub has to have X many check-ins, you need to participate in this many things before you can be a dev. And we've done this to ourselves, where Joe showed us these numbers last week, and I was so in shock, where there's going to be 150 million vacant tech jobs, right, by 2025. 2025 is not actually far. That's soon, and 150 million vacant tech jobs. Who the hell is going to fill those? Do we have 100 million software engineers running around? Hint, no, we don't. We don't even have like 50 million software engineers on the planet. Did you know that? Not even 50 right now. We can't even fill the jobs we have, much less the jobs we're gonna have. So we as an industry have been such jerks that we have messed this up so bad by making this into this like super elite, really impossible to get into, echelon of humans. We've told everyone, no, you don't have what it takes to be a dev. You don't have what it takes to make apps, make websites. So everyone now is like, well, I can't do it because everyone in the world has freaking imposter syndrome about starting. So the only people who don't have imposter syndrome about Power Platform are computer scientists. And we're like, okay, this is irrelevant, right? This is a stupid conversation to have with you computer scientists. Everyone else is like, no, I'm not gonna be an app dev. And I mean everybody, people who are incredibly talented at finance, business, accounting, law, very, very hard industries. People like my dad, who's worked in autos for 30 years, like, no, I'm not a dev. Like, stop it. It's not like becoming a brain surgeon. It really isn't. It's a matter of building your own table, right? With the box you get from IKEA. Everyone has managed to assemble a table from IKEA. This is the code version of that. And I love the work that Joe and Gomolemo are doing, where they're just going after community and saying, stop doing that. You can do it, and let me show you how. The content that Joe's been writing really starts you off at go to this URL. Here's how you sign up for an account. He's not speaking dev, he's speaking human. And I do believe that's where the gap has been so far, is we try to speak dev to not devs, and we're confused about why not devs aren't resonating. And, this is what Joe and Gomolemo are focused on, like, go after the people who have no idea what we're saying. Go after people in emerging markets who are like, whoa, this ain't for me. And go get them, because that is where most of the billions of people in the world live, in fact, right? Most of the people in the world, I would say 7 billion people are non-tech and in outside the US. So we need to focus outside the US. We need to focus on non-tech audiences. It's the only way that we're going to make any traction, because it is so dumb to have a global workforce who's looking for work and 150 million vacant jobs. We're like, hello. This seems like a matchmaking problem. So, you know what I mean? Like, on one hand, they were saying we have the biggest talent deficit, $8.5 trillion talent deficit in the world for tech. And then on the other side, we have 150 million vacant jobs. Like, it seems solvable. It's our fault as tech industry for being so elite that we've caused this issue. So we're trying to solve it one human at a time. Cajoling, voluntelling, one human at a time.
So where's the best? So first of all, so if listeners are on listening to this or watching this and thinking, oh, this sounds interesting, how do they actually get started with it?
Joe.
I am so glad you asked, Ian. I guess this is the part of the conversation where when we have this conversation with Donna, it's okay, here's your homework, listeners. And so the answer to the question is a couple things. And I realize I'm tooting my own horn, and I apologize to sound somewhat self-serving, but it's not intentional, but I think the information is pretty good. Within LinkedIn, I've written 3 articles that are kind of about my journey. Within one of the articles, it goes step by step on how you can set up a Office 365 developer subscription. Within that subscription, you will get access to Power Platform and Power Apps. So that's step 1. Within step 2, there are some great courses on Microsoft Learn, and a lot of those have been aggregated, and you can just kind of go step by step. And that is aka.ms/Power Academy. And I think that it's actually something that Donna did, is she aggregated, I think it's maybe 10 to 12 courses. It's all free to anybody and everybody who wants to look at it. And it goes step by step on how you can build out your first app, and really good stuff. It's actually where I started. It's the information that I started. And additionally, coming up, there's a couple of conferences that are going to be available for anybody. On August the 25th, this might be a little more in depth for some people that are listening, but for others who have some dev background, There's a AMA that Ask Microsoft Anything that Donna will be hosting with her corporate VP. That's on August the 25th. Then on October the 14th and 15th, we are hosting a online conference that's going to be called Start Dev Change, and this is for any and all beginners. It's 2 days. The first day will be focused on dev type of stuff, so there'll be some intros into languages. There'll be intros like Python and JavaScript and that sort of stuff. There'll be some sessions on cloud and the advantages of doing work in the cloud. There'll be some, I think there's some SQL, some database type of sessions, all intro based. And then the following day will be all about Power Platform. So there'll be, this is what Power Platform is all about. There'll be a building your first app, which is a session that I'm going to do. Then I think that there'll be an AI session or an automate session. I can't remember which one that Homo will be doing following me. There'll be some Power BI sessions. We're gonna pull some people in from the community to talk about their journey and what they're doing within Power Apps and Power Platform, which is going to be really cool. And this is from, I guess, it's at 8 a.m. it's an all-day thing, and then there'll be a repeat of a lot of that same content for our friends in Asia Pacific. So those are some great things for people to get involved with and start learning about Power Apps. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of a lot right there. So Ian, hopefully that answers the question. I think it does.
Yep. And I'll include the links to the things that you mentioned as well in the show notes that go with this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Oh,
Perfect.
So there's a secret thing, which I guess if it's a secret, I shouldn't tell all of you, but we're gonna. So me, Homo, and Joe are working on a Udacity course. So Udacity is an upskilling platform. They work with companies they make engineers. So they make cloud engineers with AWS. They make autonomous driving engineers with Google. They make cellular phone engineers with AT&T. And they are going to soon make low-code devs with us. So we are creating a free Power Platform introductory course, and we want people to take it. Want them to take it, give us feedback. The three of us are making it like as we speak, as in Homolemo's prepping a demo, and me and Joe are like trying to figure out dev accounts. So we spend a lot of time working on this Udacity course. So we're going to be drafting it and filming it for the next 3 months, and then it should go live before December end. So you should plan to spend your Christmas holiday learning Power Platform if you haven't, because there will be quizzes and volunteering activities after. But we want to reach outside the Microsoft bubble, right? One of the things we realize is for us to really have impact, we have to get beyond like the 1 billion people we know. We know Microsoft a lot of customers. We probably have like 1.5 billion people looking at Office, Windows, Azure, et cetera, et cetera. But we got to get beyond, because those are the people who already get tech. They're like, yeah, I have a tech job somewhere. I either use tech or I build tech. But the world is a very large place. And for us to only focus on the audience we have is dumb. Instead, let's focus on all the people who could really, really benefit from this to really up-level and upskill their lives. And that is why we're creating this Udacity course, where you have to know nothing. You have to know how to go to udacity.com. That's it. And Joe is writing amazing content to help you like go to office365 or whatever.com, sign up for your first dev account. Then it gives you a bunch of stuff on build your first Power App from scratch, build your first this from scratch. And it doesn't assume any tech knowledge. It doesn't assume that you have worked in a company. It doesn't assume that you've studied CS. It doesn't assume that you've come from a background where you configure and mess around with servers. This is for military veterans. It's for Uber drivers. It's for people who work at nonprofits. Anyone in the world should be able to take our Udacity and be able to finish and walk away with an app that they have built to do something really interesting in their lives. So that is a secret project we're working on. no longer a secret. But we wanted to tell
No
you
longer.
first. Like, yeah, we wanted to tell you publicly first because you're our friends, and this is something that we would love for the entire insider community to get behind, because insiders, literally your job is to go teach people about tech. And this is something that you should be teaching everyone. I'm not saying everyone in the world needs to go get a dev job. I'm saying automate the annoying things in your life. Figure out your schedule. Joe is currently making a Power App to track our 3 speaking schedules, because every day I'm like, we have a speaking gig, we have a speaking gig, we have a speaking gig. He's like, you know what? I'm done with this. We're going to make a Power App to track them, because, you know, the inside of your head is not a good data store. It's a terrible data store. Yeah.
Well, I think that's why it's so great. I mean, our listeners will be thinking about it for their day jobs, but also even I was thinking of setting some of my smart home sensors up with it. Maybe my smart greenhouse will be using a Power App.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So one thing you briefly mentioned there, which I really want to shout out about, is the community, because the community on Power Apps is amazing. I mean, I know, Donna, you do a YouTube video with my friend CRM Cat, Sarah,
Yes.
which I think is absolutely amazing, and also that brings a lot of the community in as well. And you've said that there's community speakers, and at every event I've seen, it's been so noticeable that people really get this and really want to engage with this. So I'd certainly let people say to people, have a search around. If you just search for Power Apps on Twitter, you'll find 500 people wanting to talk to you about it immediately.
Yes.
So just tweet out certain questions and you'll get answers. So it's, if you get stuck on anything, there's always going to be people to help you. It's a really great community.
Oh yeah, they're fanatical too, because people who use Power Apps, they find their life has been changed. They were like, why the heck was I doing it that way? That's so dumb. Let me do this. And I want to share this amazing hack I've discovered with everyone I know. I seriously call it the most amazing hack ever, because I had no idea. I am an operating system dev. If you ask me to build an Android app or an iOS app, I'm like, that sounds like UI. I'm not doing that. And suddenly I don't have to do it, right? UI is automatically generated by the power of AI builder, thank God. And I have to do nothing but think about my data source and moving some pixels around and calling it. But, it's one of those things where it is one of those amazing life hacks. Do the freaking life hack, because you will feel so many use cases that you didn't even know that you had.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Well, I really do appreciate you all coming on the show. It was really good to talk to you about it, and I think there's a lot more to come on this. We'll probably revisit it in the future and see where we've all see what Power Apps we've been developing and see what Joe's come up with on his Power Apps.
Yeah. So all of you listeners out there, if you are forget interested, if you're vaguely curious and don't think we're total idiots, reach out. Because do the tutorial, reach out to one of the 3 of us. We will convert you, because we're gonna, right? Like one person at a time. We're really good at convincing people to do stuff. And this will make you look smarter to your family, to your boss, to your community. And we want you to look good, because you are a very smart person for listening to this amazing podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Great. That was great. We really appreciate you joining us on the show. So we'll speak to you on a future show.
Of course.
Look forward to it. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, Garry, that was fascinating, really interesting. It's a really interesting platform, and I know I've been playing with some stuff myself, and I think the idea that it empowers people, gives people a chance that aren't devs to do something like that is fantastic.
I think it's really good, and my fellow devs shouldn't be scared of this either. I mean, there's still loads of opportunity for people to feed into the Power Apps world, but I just think it really empowers people to get things done. I mean, it's the same sort of revolution we had when spreadsheets first came into the market.
Yeah.
Suddenly, people could actually do things in their own departments and get on and do things, and it's incredible. And I'm seeing it. I mean, I'm seeing it from my client base that there's loads of people starting to use these low-code platforms to solve problems, and that's the whole point. I mean, we just need to solve problems, and particularly in the current environment, we just need to get things done, and this definitely really makes that a lot easier.
Yeah. So that was great stuff. So we should be back same time, same place next week with our more regular show. We'll see if we can drag Richard from his bunker in Wales. So we'll see you next week.
Well, he'll want to be telling us all about the Giro, won't he? So we'll have to talk about that.